Of the Year awards, we get two of them. One for an in-house award for a peacemaker that has made a contribution towards peace that year and maybe in the whole life.
It's not coming through.
It's not coming through?
Speak up.
It's on.
It's on. I just need to speak closer?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, each year Nebraskans for Peace give two Peacemaker of the Year awards, one an in-house and one from outside the organization. And this year we are giving the in-house one, and Judy Sandine, one of our board members, is going to present that Peacemaker of the Year award. Judy?
You're welcome. Is it here? But I'm supposed to Where is it? Okay, thank you. Well, the person who's receiving the in-house Peacemaker of the Year award is someone you all had the opportunity to hear his passion and his ability to make important points at the very end of the last session. I'm happy to tell you more about Brian Whitecap. I first met Brian when he came to Hastings P-Flag, which is Parents, Friends, and Families of Lesbians and Gays. And he shared his story of coming out gay at his Bible college and his church. We were all blown away by his sincerity and courage in the face of the serious consequences he faced, and his warm and open welcome to all newcomers to P-Flag for many years after that first visit. Since that time, his leadership and kind heart have been of immeasurable support to so many. He founded new P-Flag chapters in Grand Island and Kearney, which is no small feat given the national P-Flag requirements for new chapters. He has organized and led innumerable pride events all over the state and has served as the Nebraska State Director for P-Flag. His king-size rainbow flag shows up at events all over the state, flying proudly in the Nebraska wind. Brian is the ultimate social justice warrior. His work goes well beyond GLBTQIA+ issues. He can be found at pipeline protests, taking selfies at food trucks, planting peace trees, working against hunger, promoting decent health care for all, helping immigrants, growing food from seeds of food that he bought and kept the seeds, planting a peace park at a local school, working for indigenous rights, promoting public education, helping with community gardens, and so much more that maybe I'm not even aware of. He's sort of I don't know if I ever pronounce this correctly, indefatigable. Please join me in congratulating Brian Whitecap as a most worthy recipient of this award.
I just want you all to know that I voted against giving me an award. And I stipulated a moratorium on giving me an award for at least 50 years. And unfortunately, the motion failed. I just want to thank all of you. Since joining Central Nebraska Peace Workers and the Nebraskans for Peace Board, it's been your support and your financial contributions that have put gas in my car, that's taken me from Omaha to Scottsbluff, from Superior, Nebraska to O'Neill, Nebraska, who's empowered me and inspired me to create change in schools, school board policies, in communities where no one thought that progress could be made. In Kearney, Nebraska, where I organized a rally of over 500 people for LGBT rights. Who knew that they would all show up? For so long, Nebraskans for Peace has been doing this kind of work, and it will continue to do this kind of work into the future. Ultimately, I want to thank my mom for raising 3 kids in a single-parent household, from somehow creating a child that believed in peace, even at a young age. Perhaps it's my Quaker ancestry that caused that. But I want to give a brief plug of my beliefs. As it was mentioned, I'm sort of a Christian fundamentalist, and a radical one at that, but for all the right reasons. I have a workshop coming up called The Future is Fem, empowering a world where feminine is honored, celebrated, and empowered. And I believe in democracy, and I believe in equal rights, of course, and human rights, but I've made some observations, and perhaps I have a little bit of bias. But to all the men, I thank you for all that you've done for this great world and country, but you have it okay. And to the women in this room, though I do not believe you are perfect, I do believe wholeheartedly that you are far superior. I've worked in healthcare, education, and nonprofits for over 20 years. You women are always at the table, quietly working to create change. You are the change makers. You are creating better policies for the world. And unfortunately, far too women are not elected to be in office. In Nebraska alone, I think it's less than 2% of women are in office. So I stand with you in empowering you to be the leaders of the world. And if anyone gets in your way, I'm telling all of you, if a man ever gets in your way, cut his balls off.
Amen.
I'll be there to help you. In 2016, you're fully aware of what's at stake. Am I literally talking about you taking a knife and taking someone's testicles off? No. But by far, they have all the power in Nebraska. Every county board, every school board, every city council is dominated by an old, white male. In Minden, Nebraska, they closed the community hospital. In Lancaster County, they blocked wind turbine development. In Grand Island, Nebraska, they cut the Meals on Wheels program. They're the ones who block the school board policies in Hastings for LGBT students to be protected. These old white men. But there is a glimmer of hope in Nebraska. As you go through the census information, county after county, those who are 18 years and older, eligible to vote. And every single county in Nebraska, women are the dominant population of this state. So, I'm here to empower them to take over. Because when they go to vote for a policy, they don't think about really themselves. They think about the children that they birthed. I was not a planned pregnancy. I was a difficult pregnancy, and I wasn't supposed to be born. My mom invested every last dollar and cent to make sure that I would graduate from high school and that I go to college. And you see these immigrant mothers, they'll do anything and everything to make sure their children have a better future than they had. And you see now more than ever that there are consequences to these elections. There are consequences for men not doing the right thing. And I believe that the only people that are going to hold these men accountable is the women, half the population. But in these rural communities, women have been with me for a very long time, supporting me, encouraging me, Nebraskans for Peace, PFLAG, the Multicultural Coalition of Grand Island, the Human Trafficking Coalition of Nebraska, these teachers who are staying after school, making sure these kids are taken care of, these nurses that are running down the hallway to save lives, my own mother, her sisters, my grandmother. You are the future, and I'm going to make sure that in the future you have a better chance. Thank you for this award.
Okay, the Peacemaker of the Year award for the outside person isn't really an outside person, but we're going to ask Larry Zink, who was former state coordinator, to come up here and give that award.
Well, first of all, Ron took words out of my mouth here. Marcia is certainly not an outside person in terms of Nebraskans for Peace. But when I was first asked to present this award, my thoughts run back to my first and early days associated with Nebraskans for Peace during the Vietnam War. And I thought of the rural Nebraskans for Peace people who were instrumental in getting this organization started. How many of those people who had spent their lives plugging away at the values that we all represent, and particularly from a rural perspective. And Marcia Fangmeyer, who we're honoring today, is certainly somebody who has followed that tradition. I first met Marcia, I believe, in about 1980. She was at that time a young attorney working for legal aid, and she and myself and a few other folks had come together to try to figure out how we might coordinate a statewide campaign to support the USSR nuclear weapons freeze campaign. There was nationally a lot of ferment and concern about the dangers of the runaway nuclear arms race and the cost of that. And in Nebraska, people at the grassroots level were beginning to organize around this concept. And we tried to figure out a way to kind of strategize on a state level how we might harvest and focus that effort over a long term. Make the long story short, because I know Tim Rennick has given me less than a minute on the schedule, and I used to be in this role. We were successful after 5 years in actually getting the Nebraska legislature to change from a peace through strength resolution that they had passed initially as to pass a U.S. nuclear weapons freeze resolution. We felt that was pretty significant in the home of SAC. And in the process of that, we built a broad coalition of churches, almost all the major denominations in the state supported that idea, a number of labor unions, a number of farm groups. Marcia was integral to that effort, providing a good ongoing leadership to that organizational effort and helping us in building that broad coalition. I think it's important that leadership and coalition building skills that she's pursued since then, as she's pursued her career as an attorney. She's now a senior partner in a law firm here in Kearney, where she focuses on family law and mediation efforts. But while she's pursued her career, she's also pursued her advocacy for social justice issues and peace concerns through a number of forums. And many of those I was aware of, but I asked Marcia if she could kind of give me a bit of a list, and since it's short, I'll quickly try to go through those. Among the things that she has been involved in is during the farm crisis. She worked with the Department of Agriculture to provide counseling and education seminars for farmers who found themselves behind the 8 ball in terms of debt, and was active mediator between some of those farmers and the bankers. She is on the board of the Safe Center here in Kearney, which is a domestic abuse shelter. She's on the board of Legal Aid of Nebraska. She's on the advisory committee of the School of Social Work here at UNMK, on the board of ACLU. She's been on the board of the Nebraska Bar Association, and they recognized her leadership, and so she was the president of the Nebraska Bar Association. All of these and many other things, the way Marcia has displayed her leadership and ability to bring people together to solve problems. I think it's important, following the last presenter's remarks, to note that Marcia is now embarking on a new adventure. She is now the candidate for the 38th district legislature. Bringing her concern about social justice issues together with her unique concerns about rural issues. Her platform basically speaks to being a strong advocate for rural Nebraskans, our families, our schools, our health care, and for meaningful property tax relief. So please join me in recognizing Marcia Pegmeyer for her lifetime achievements.
Thank you. I first became involved with Nebraskans for Peace in the mid-1970s when my dear friend Susie Franger invited me to attend a Nebraskans for Peace meeting that was held at the church next to Wesleyan University in Kearney. I believe that's the first meeting I ever went to, and been involved ever since. Being involved with Nebraskans for Peace and the relationships that I have developed, so many of you are out there. Paul, I haven't had a chance to say hello to you, has enriched my life. Now I'm on a new adventure, another grassroots adventure, running for the legislature in the 38th district, which entails just a little bit of Buffalo County, then Phelps County, then over to Kearney County where I live, down to Franklin County, over to Webster County, over to Nuckolls County, and up to Clay County. I've had a lot of support from folks in this room. Judy, thank you for writing all those postcards. I'm once again I'm being enriched. I am just about finished with what I call a 18-town, 12 days tour of the district, talking to, I always find the people at the coffee shop, and then I've talked to nursing home administrators, CEOs of hospitals, superintendents of schools, and the mayors and community development people, and I've been listening, and win or lose, although I do intend to win, so I am participating in George Norris's ongoing, never-ending experiment in a better way to resolve our problems, called Nebraska Unicameral. Thank you. And thank you for this.
Okay, okay, I want all of you to look in your packet and you will find a fundraising challenge. I think I'm on schedule here. Yeah, okay. Every year at our annual peace conference, we set a goal of raising money to fund the organization Nebraskans for Peace. We're primarily a grassroots organization, and our membership is where we get our funding from. Okay, for 48 years, Nebraskans for Peace has been a voice for change towards a more just, inclusive, and peaceful world. In your packet is that green sheet, and I invite each of you to participate and contribute in this ongoing and never-ending work. Our goal today is to raise the $15,000 and to keep the voice of Nebraskans for Peace strong and persistent, even at a time when it seems that few people listen to that voice. For 25 of those 48 years, Tim Rennan has served as state coordinator. And serving a peace group like NFP is not an exact science and can at times be very stressful. Tim has been able to work with the board and the staff that has diverse views and yet does the work with his grace, wit, and humor. And today we'd like to recognize Tim for this accomplishment by awarding him a plaque for his 25 years of service to the cause of peace. And I don't know what he's there yet. Where's that? Please come up, Tim.
I don't think this was on the agenda. Thank you, folks. But my first reaction is that I should be giving a plaque to you all, because for 25 years, you've let me live out my convictions and paid me for it. And that's something that almost nobody else on earth gets to do. I've gotten to get up every morning with the idea that I have an opportunity, because people are paying me to do this full time, to go out and try to make the world a better place. Now, I have to say that this is actually kind of a bashing for me, because I don't think the world's as good a place as it was 25 years ago. 25 years ago, the Cold War had just ended, and we were talking about cutting the military budget and having a peace dividend. And now, we just, this year, are spending $700 billion, twice as much as we were spending then, and we have Donald Trump in the White House, and that doesn't seem like progress to me. I guess the other thing I want to say about all of this is, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Nebraskans for Peace is not about one person. We're just this collection of good-hearted do-gooders that are trying to make the world a better place. And as I look around this room, and to do that, I'll have to put my glasses back on, I basically see family. I see people here that I've worked with for 25 years or longer, and these people have made this organization possible. They've made it possible for me to do what I'm doing. And it's always a slippery slope to start talking about this and to single people out and thank them, because you forget somebody. But as I'm looking around here, I see Marcia Fangmeyer, I see Paul Wilson, I see Loyal and Mary Alice Park, I see John Krejci, I see people that have made this possible, and there are lots of people who are no longer here because they passed on. And they were critical. They were critical for me being able to do what I do, and for Nebraskans for Peace to do what it does. And for me to do this, the only way it was possible, because believe it or not, this job doesn't pay 6 figures, is I have a staff person who actually counts as my partner in life, okay? And she's not a staff person. But she was the person who provided all of the background and the financial platform for me to be able to do this. And so the person we should really be honoring today is the woman that I've been lucky enough to call my wife, and that's Kay Walter. Who have been so instrumental in helping me do what I've done, and I have failed to shout your name out. I apologize. And Virginia Welsch, I see you too. All right. I will just say thank you. You don't ever have to worry about me getting a golden anniversary award. I'm not going to do this for 25 years. But that I am so lucky to do what I do. I'm so lucky to work with the people that I do work with. and I really get to work with the great president of the organization. Ron.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, now back to the green sheet. So, after giving that award to Tim for his 25 years of service to the organization, and you've decided what you're going to give, I'm asking you to step up a notch and give an extra $25, $250, and if you got the means, $2,500 to give to our organization and to keep it viable. NFB operates on a bare bones budget of $155,000 a year, and our staff has not taken a raise for a good number of years, trying to keep us afloat and going. So we depend.
Ron, we have the best staff.
Yeah.
in Hawaii.
Yeah, we do. We do. And FB has been largely funded by the generosity of some very committed members. And it has, like we said, underpaid staff, and they do a lot of work. They send out, I think you have one in your packet, the Nebraska report 6 times a year. They coordinate events, inform members about legislation at both state and federal levels. And as I said earlier in the meeting, we traditionally have been consistent and persistent in our call for reducing military spending, providing a living wage for all workers, be inclusive of all citizens of our planet. That includes all our animal and plant relatives. And we also have called for equality for all people regardless of race, gender, or sexual orientation. And probably one of the biggest success stories that NFP has done recently was Nebraskans for Peace was the lead organization that called for creating the awareness of what was going on in White Clay, the travesty of the state of Nebraska benefiting from liquor sales to the Native American population across the border in Pine Ridge. And it was just within the last couple of years now that the Liquor Control Commission has closed those beer stores down. And most recently, we've been the leading voice for climate change and the effect that it will have on our food system. And I have to tell you that as a veteran of a war 50 years ago, I've come to the conclusion that all wars are fought over natural resources, and the primary resource is food. I can remember being in Vietnam and hearing about rice paddies being burned. I came back home and I heard secretaries of agriculture talk about food as a weapon to try to make people do. That is not what Nebraskans for Peace is about. It should not be about what our country is about. And we need, food is the central, food and water is what human beings need. And we need to be aware of that. So I am going to close my appeal as you fill out your green sheet. And I want to quote from Gloria Steinem. She said, "It is more rewarding to watch money change the world than to watch it accumulate."
Than to watch what?
Than to watch it accumulate. NFB has been doing its part in trying to change the world for 48 years. I ask you to please be generous and continue that effort. Thank you. Okay, we have several guests that want to make a pitch for issues that are before us, and one of the main ones, we talked a little bit about it, I think, this morning, is the Medicaid expansion. And we have Eric Appian here, who wants to give us about 10 minutes about what we can do to get that passed on the ballot.
Hello, everyone. I think everybody, a lot of people here, I know a lot of people here. I've actually done quite a few things with Nebraskans for Peace over the years. I remember doing a conference with Tim during the dark days of the second Bush administration and thinking we'd reached a low point. Just to sort of think about what Tim was saying earlier, I had no idea it was going to get this bad. And actually to echo something that Brian said earlier, elections do matter. We've had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to change how this country behaves, to change the direction of this country and its policies. And unfortunately, we haven't taken advantage of those opportunities over the past few years, including in the George Bush years. Off-year elections in particular have been very difficult for this country, for people who really care about getting things done that are, we might call progressive or liberal, or values that I think this organization holds dear. So that's why I'm here, actually, is because this is a very, very important election. And as some of you may know, I've been working with the Nebraska Democratic Party for the past 2 years, but I've recently just switched over to work on a campaign called Ensure the Good Life, and we're here to make sure that 90,000 people in Nebraska get the health care that they deserve. The bill, the set of bills known as the ACA or Obamacare, of course, included expanding Medicaid, but the Supreme Court decided that that was not a fair mandate for states to follow, so it was left up to the states to decide to do this. Now, the governors and the senators in the unicameral have decided not to do that. So we're taking it to the streets. We know that Nebraskans overall believe that these people do deserve the health care that they need. And we are here to make sure that those people get activated statewide to vote in November to expand Medicaid. Now, it's going to take a lot of work. We don't really have a whole lot of time. Our campaign got started in terms of field, and I'm the field director here. My job is to make sure that people actually get out and vote. So I'm asking you if you have any time over the next few weeks, maybe an hour or two a week, maybe an hour or two in the upcoming, just an hour of any time over the next few weeks to volunteer for this group. It's a pretty broad coalition, from hospital administrators to I think Nebraskans for Peace might be a member of the organization. I'm not really sure. HCAN. I just started this week, so memorizing the list of organizations behind here is going to be I'm not yet. But anyway, we're going to be knocking doors. We're going to be making phone calls. We're going to be taking advantage of new technologies like texting people, which has become a very effective way of getting people activated in elections. I was skeptical about this until this spring. It's a very quick way, a very easy way to get a hold of a lot of people. And they have been very responsive in elections over the past year or so with the tools we've been using for texting. Volunteering for a campaign can take some time. It can sometimes be very difficult. Knocking doors is not easy. Virginia's probably knocked more doors than anybody I know, actually. And she knows that it's not, it's not always very easy, but it's that was my next point, actually. The first 4 or 5 doors knocking, and I don't know how many people here, who here has actually volunteered for a campaign in Nebraska over the past few years? So, looks like a little over half of you. Knocking doors is the most effective way to get people to the polls. Study after study, campaign after campaign has shown this. We don't have a lot of time, like I said, to organize all of this stuff, so we really need you to get in touch with us as quickly as you can. Virginia said it's addictive. It is. I always tell people the first 4 doors of any canvass are the most terrifying. And to this day, I've canvassed, I don't know how many doors in this state, thousands and thousands for various campaigns over the years, the first four doors still scare the hell out of me. However, along at the fifth, sixth, seventh door after I've talked to a couple of people, and I start to get my feet under me, it becomes one of the most rewarding experiences that I think I've ever had. It's giving people an opportunity to believe that they can have an effect on their country in a positive manner. And half the time people don't even know there's an election coming up. They need to be reminded. And that may not be their fault. There are all sorts of things that interfere with people's abilities to know what's going on. This is why we're doing this. Personally, I actually have experienced the Medicaid gap. There was a time when I was laid off from a job in, 2012. It was 2012 I got laid off. I had trouble getting a job after that. I actually had people telling me I was overqualified for even a gas station job. So there was a time when I did not have insurance. I suffer from a pretty severe case of depression. I've had depression my whole life. For a while there, I could not get the medication to keep that in check. It was terrifying. There are 90,000 people in the state of Nebraska who are still in that position. And I believe it's our responsibility to help them. So again, if you can volunteer for this campaign, if you have other campaigns that you're interested in, I guarantee that helping this campaign will help them as well, because it's basically the same group of people. Marcia, running for Senate, we're hoping to coordinate with her too, to do as much as we can with her and get people to the polls. Anyway, I've spoken too long. If you want to volunteer, please get in touch with me. You can just send an email to me at Eric, it's ERIC, at insurethegoodlife.com. And I'll be here for a little while after this, so you can just come up and bug me if you want. But it's very important that we get as many people to the polls as possible. I'm optimistic. We actually have a poll that says that we're doing pretty well, that we're actually very likely to win this. However, the only way to guarantee that is to make sure the people who we know want to vote for this actually do vote for this. Our opponents haven't spent any money on this campaign yet. They probably will. We need to get out to the doors before they start doing that. So our first canvass door-to-door is going to be next Sunday, the 30th. We only have one location set up. But if you want to canvass, not everybody hears from Lincoln and Omaha. We have one in Omaha set up right now. We will be setting one up in Lincoln. We want to do canvasses everywhere. Wherever you're from, just let me know. We will help you to do that. I wish I had literature, but we don't have it printed yet. We will next week. But if you have any questions, just come bug me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And I know when our legislatures don't do their work, then it's up to the people to do it, and they have not done that. And I think it was just, 2 years ago that there was a ballot issue on raising wages, and it was successful. Next I'd like to introduce Kevin Camps, who's beyond nuclear. He's going to give us a short presentation on that.
My name is Kevin Camps, and I serve as radioactive waste watchdog at Beyond Nuclear. We're a nuclear power industry watchdog group in Tacoma Park, Maryland, which is a nuclear-free zone. And I've known Nebraskans for Peace for about 20 years. I gave a call to Tim way back then because there was a plan to transport high-level radioactive waste through Nebraska in very large numbers of shipments. And I called on short notice, as is my style, just like today. And Tim was very accommodating, put me in touch with folks across the state. I used to stay at Joe Peterson's, so I was saddened to learn of her passing on. And they're back, to date myself, from the Poltergeist movie. They are moving at Capitol Hill to try to open these western dump sites again. So western Shoshone Indian land in Nevada, which has already suffered so much from nuclear weapons testing over decades. A new version of things, which are called centralized interim storage facilities, again targeted at low-income people of color communities, this time on the borderlands of Texas and New Mexico. And I have an info table in the back of the room, the Ponderosa room, where you can see maps of the routes. And again, Nebraska is very hard hit by the 100 reactors. Half of the country has the reactors. It's the eastern half of the country. 90% of the reactors, 90% of the waste are in the eastern half of the country. This is very much a case of east dumping on west. These sites are not scientifically suitable. And what makes it everybody's problem is the transportation. We all live in Nevada, New Mexico, and Texas. These are very high risk trucks and trains, and in some cases, including in Omaha, barge shipments. So what I'm hoping to do is just to put the word out, do my little Paul Revere impersonation without the horse and the funny hat, and see if there might be interest across Nebraska for me to come back out at some point and do a fuller length presentation on this subject matter, what some of the alternatives are. I had a short talk with Christian about the fact that a lot of these reactors are on the seacoasts, are on rivers, are on the Great Lakes, where I'm from, in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Can't stay there forever for a lot of reasons, but we can't commit these acts of environmental injustice, environmental racism, radioactive racism in a great big hurry, which is the current plan. So please check out my table, check out the maps, check out the shipment numbers. We're talking close to 7,000 shipments through Nebraska. Only a few hundred of those would be export shipments from Cooper and Fort Calhoun. The other 6,500 or more would be coming from other states, passing through, putting your communities at risk. And what's driving the process, as is often the case, is the companies that made the waste trying to offload that liability onto the American taxpayer. So check out the table. I'll be there during breaks, and we can talk more if you'd like me to come talk to your place of worship, your civic group, your school. I'd be happy to. Thank you very much.
And next we would invite Tim Pickinger, who wants a few minutes to talk about Elders of the Youth.
First of all, about Elders for the Earth, it doesn't have to do with age, it has to do with wisdom. And there's a lot of wisdom in this room. So, Elders for the Earth, we're having our third Zero Waste event coming up October 7th, 8th, and 9th. We, as a community, meet at Mahoney State Park for local food, local wine, local music, a bit of my local humor, for those of you who know me. My wife, if she was here, would moan at that. And local expertise. So we have professors from UNO and UNL and UNK, and we have speakers who are interested in improving the climate. So if you go to, and it's not on this one, on eldersfortheearth.com, you can register. This is our last week for registration, so we have about 5 days. Anyway, we'd love to see you. The food is great, the community is great. You can either see me, and I have some cards, or Elaine, who is also on the planning committee, and we would love to have you sign up. Thank you.
And it's lots of fun, too.
Yeah.
I invite John Krejci up here. He has a couple of announcements, short announcements.
I promise to be the shortest. I know how these things go on and on. I'm just announcing 2 banquets. The United Nations Association is having their annual UN Day banquet on October 21st at the Trinity United Methodist Church in Lincoln. And we are honoring the NAACP for their 100 years existing in Lincoln. And NAACP is having their annual banquet October 6th at the Graduate Hotel in Lincoln. You can contact Dwayne Mays for NAACP or Bob Haller for UNA. So, thank you.
And Mark wants a minute or two of your time to talk about the Citizens Climate Lobby.
Thank you, Ron. You may have noticed the big sign in the other room that said, if you want to join the Citizens Climate Lobby, to text to that phone number. If you don't have the texting capability, just come and see me. What Citizens Climate Lobby is, I'll do this in about a minute. We're an international group now that's working to pass federal laws around the world that will tax fossil fuels, starting with a small tax, but increase that tax every year to send a signal to industry that you guys need to figure out something else to use. We know that they can figure that out. They're smart individuals. We don't want government telling them to do this or that. And then all of that money that comes into the IRS will then be turned around and sent out to individual families on a per capita basis. So every family of the same size will get the same amount of money based on how much money is coming in through this small but steadily increasing tax. We're going to protect, in our proposed bill to Congress, protect industry in this country by, if an importer is bringing a product from a country that does not have this tax, we will put a tariff on that product as it enters our borders. So the tax would be applied only to the producers when they first enter our economy. So the tax would be put on at the mine, at the well, at the pipeline import point, at the port of import. So it's a real simple bill. We just need more people like you to reach out to our elected officials in Congress to tell them this is a good idea, please support it. We expect the bill to be introduced soon in the new year. So thank you.
And now Judy Sandine has a word or two about the Medicaid expansion and voting.
Actually voting. We've been learning across the country, people have been learning that they've been disenfranchised, that they are no longer registered to vote. And this is a huge issue. People go to vote and discover that they're no longer in the vote. So please go to vote.org. It's really easy. Check to see that your registration is current, and it can tell you where you go to vote. Tell your friends across the country. It seems to be a huge problem in other parts of the country. In Nebraska, of course, you can check with the Nebraska Secretary of State or your own county registrar. But vote.org is the easiest one. And just please tell people to check that and find out if they are currently registered to vote.
Okay, we're going to take a 15-minute break before we start, maybe a 5-minute or 10-minute break before the workshops start. The workshops, there's 2 rooms over here, and then there's 2 rooms on the 3rd floor. And we do have one of those workshops we don't have a speaker for. One of them is on its way. Here's one of the latter workshops, Graham Christensen. I called him all ago. He said he would be here by the time the workshop starts. One other to end up housekeeping. Any of you that are receiving the credit units or need to see Henry DeSoso, would he please stand? He needs to sign those for you to get the credit. They've already did it? Oh, okay. Okay, all right. I just wanted to remind people of that. And then we will have a short annual business meeting at 4:45 in the Ponderosa Room C. Well, I'm not sure what's going to be. But we will adjourn now. You can take a few minutes and then go to the first set of workshops if you're ready. Okay, sure.